this is a lot of planning that Heather and James had a large part of. Thanks everybody for attending. I want to note some of the key people. First and foremost in my life is my wife Cynthia. Backbone of our family. Without doubt, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. Needless to say, Heather wouldn't be here either. So, thank you so much, Cindy, for putting up with me 37 years now.
You're welcome.
Next, I'd like to note the mother of the groom, Kathy G. She's at our table, I believe. Kathy. And her boyfriend, Doug, right behind her. Thank you. And James Sr., I always get confused. You know, there's James, there's Jimmy, there's JG, I can't keep up. I'm told to call him James because Dad is Jim Gudger at the other table.
Right here.
With his wife, Rhoda.
I'm going to the bar.
At the bar with Rhonda, I hope. There we go. And Rhonda's over there. There she is. Beautiful blonde. And finally, Aunt Denise, who traveled, I got to know her a little last night, who traveled from New York. Where's Aunt Denise? Aunt Denise, sister, who warned me about his tendency to spill red wine. And he spilled some last night. And finally, I'd like to note, and there's a lot of good friends of James, Jimmy. A lot of good friends of James. Don't play golf with any of them for money. They're all very good. This guy in particular you don't want to play against. He's a golf pro. Andrew Cortez and his lovely wife Ashley from Montana. Andrew also deserved to be called out because he's now had to play golf with me twice in the last month or two. And that's a challenge, trust me. Especially when you're as good as he is, playing with me is not fun. So that's the Cudger side of the clan. The dignitaries on our side I'd like to call out first. My oldest friend, he's like a brother to me. My other brothers couldn't make it tonight. So Doug got called in to be brother. Doug is, I've known him since he's 8 years old. We grew up together in Maryland and we've been friends all the way through two coasts and college. Doug Murphy and his wife Karen, right there at the table. Haven't done anything in life without Doug at some point. Next, I'd like to call out Minister Billy and his wife Paula. For those who were at the little ceremony, Minister Billy killed it, I'm supposed to say. Minister Billy is the bomb. It was part of the ceremony. And I forget you had to say something else. It was magnificent or something. Awesome. And finally, Uncle Dave. I got to call out Uncle Dave. Dave Riley, who's been in our life for about the same time as Bill and I, 40 years. He is, again, not my brother, but he is like an uncle. The kids grew up with him. Uncle Dave went out and fetched Tucker's blanket that fell out the car window one time in Atlanta. It's a long story. He's that kind of guy. He's also was my boss most of my career. So I got to thank him for that. I wouldn't be here, or they wouldn't be here without Dave's help too. So Dave, thanks for coming. He also came from Connecticut, another long travel. Thank you, Dave. So I think I got all the intros. Miss anybody? I think so. All right, so now I'm supposed to tell little stories about Heather, as a tradition. First of all, as you might guess, despite all the tall guys and basketball players at this party, there's a football gene in Heather's background. She had two grandfathers that played football, uncles that played football in college, brother that played football. I played football, you'd never guess. I got the knees to prove it. And Heather, of course, didn't get the opportunity to play a lot of football, but whenever she could, she found a chance. Tucker actually reminded me of this story, which was the beginning of her football career. Tucker played Pop Warner football and then later on in high school, but when he was about 12, the team went to the beach and had this picnic. And anyway, it turned into a touch football game on the beach. And Heather was 15, and she says, I want to play. And the guy said, sure, you're a girl, you can play if you really want to. And so Heather said, yeah, I'm in. Well, the game, like boys do, it was supposed to be touch football, it turned into tackle. These guys played tackle football. and Heather's good with that. In fact, before the game was over, she made the toughest guy on the team, Tucker's team, cry. So she took him down and hit him pretty hard. So apparently there was a defensive streak in her, and this goes on because there's another phase of this. And that was just a little hint of things to come. And by the way, they never had any more of those touch games on the beach. And there's a theme to that in a minute. So then she goes to Westlake High School, and she's homecoming queen, among other things. Captained the cheerleaders. She ran a little bit of track. She was tall, so she could jump over those hurdles. All was good. She got recruited to the track team by the high school football coach, coincidentally. Well, they had a powder puff football game every year where the senior girls and the junior girls played. And Heather, of course, was recruited to the team. She becomes a defensive end. Again, coincidentally, that's what she was playing on the beach. The game is an exciting game. Could have been 1 or 2 touchdowns, who knows, but one girl got hurt, broken bones. Heather was involved, defensive end, and they finished the game and then decided that they weren't going to play that game anymore at Westlake High School. So that's 2 games canceled. And you think, well, her career is probably over. She doesn't look like D1 material. But she went to Michigan, where they play a lot of football in Michigan. And go blue. So she goes to Michigan, and sure enough, she joins a sorority, and you think, well, okay, she's safe there. But no, they have a flag football league. Heather is the defensive end again. Every time. So they go on, and they have to play through a season in the fall, and her sorority wins enough to go to the championship game. Well, the championship game is played at halftime of a Michigan tradition called the Mud Bowl that the fraternities throw every year. And they literally make a field that's depressed into a football, maybe a 60, 70-yard field, but anyway, it's mud. I mean, there's 6 inches of water and mud. And they soak it for a month. It's a big crowd. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I went to see a football game that week. It was homecoming weekend, and I'm telling you, the crowd at this game rivaled the big house. I mean, it was standing room only, and you wouldn't have believed it. And so the whole fraternity but at halftime, they have the women's Mud Bowl, shorter game, abbreviated, but very well attended, as you might imagine, and everyone watched dearly. Well, Heather's a defensive end. What a surprise. The game is supposed to be flag. There's no flags. They're all touching and fighting and falling in the mud, and the crowd goes wild. I don't even know who won. I think it was a 0-0 tie. No one really cared. It was still exciting. Sounds boring? Wasn't. Trust me, guys. So, once again, Heather knocks it out of the park, plays the whole game, comes back soaked in mud. I got pictures. It's classic. And I find out that after that, it was a very popular event, but they canceled the women's Mud Bowl championship. The national sorority canceled, said no more of that. So Heather was involved in 3 big football games. They all resulted in cancellations of the games going forward. And frequently injuries. All right, so now I'm looking for Cindy. Okay, I got the cut. All right, there was another phase of this, but you guys have had enough. So I got my director over here. So I want to welcome James to the family. I got to say, he's a fine young man. We couldn't be happier. He's already feels like part of the family. He's part of the mortgage on this house. That's a good thing. We really like that. I like the fact that he's 6'4", played basketball in high school, as did his brother, and his father certainly looks like he could. Yeah, they're golfers, but that's a game. Sport, they play basketball. So, sorry golfers. So, Heather's a little over 5'10". I mean, if we don't get, I know we got some real basketball players here, the Ware brothers, but if we don't get a 6'5" or 6" out of this, I don't know what's wrong. So, looking forward to a lot of basketball games, male or female, don't care. I'm looking forward to a lot of basketball games going forward. Maybe some golf and tennis, But here's to a new bride and groom. Heather and James, let's all raise a toast to a great life together, the best of everything, and welcome and thank you for this party. Yeah. To the bride and groom.